As they reached the outskirts of Tinsel Heights, the abandoned Goblin Tunnel came to a dead end at a huge pile of collapsed rocks. At the top of the pile, they could see beams of light was coming up from above ground. Bristol figured this was a good place to depart the tunnel, so she transformed the rocks into a staircase, and the classmates climbed to the surface. As the group emerged from underground, the air was so cold, and the passing breeze burned their skin. Every last inch of the area, for miles and miles around them, was covered in thick snow, and even more snow fell from the gray clouds above. They had arrived at the base of a towering mountain range with sharp peaks and steep slopes. In the distance to the north, the classmates spotted the pointed towers of Tinsel Palace peeking out from behind the mountain tops. In the distance to the south, in the heart of a valley below the mountain range, was the small town of Appleton Village. The village was the only place in the Northern Kingdom that hadn't been destroyed, and it was obvious that the country's entire population was gathered there. The cottage homes and shops were surrounded by a sea of tents for all the refugees who had fled there. Not only did they find themselves in the center of a wintry storm, but the classmates had also surfaced in the middle of a war zone. The base of the mountain was filled with soldiers frantically preparing for battle. A tall man with a black beard gave orders to the soldiers as they ran around him, and Bristol assumed he was the General White she had heard about. "Get those cannons into position," the general shouted. "As for the rest of you, I want one row behind me and 2 rows ahead of me. We must use whatever weapons and strength we have left. This is our last chance to save the kingdom. We cannot let her pass the mountains. I repeat, we cannot let her pass the mountains." Just a few dozen men were all that remained of the Northern Kingdom's army. After months of combat, every soldier was exhausted, battered, and bruised, and the majority of their armor was damaged or missing. However, the men still pushed through the pain and followed their general's demands. "These guys aren't going to make it through another battle," Lucy told her classmates. "We've got to do something." "I agree," Bristol said. "We'll help the soldiers first, and then we'll go to the palace." The students and apprentices hiked through the snow toward the General White. The general was so busy commanding his soldiers, he didn't notice the classmates until they were a couple feet away. "What the heck are you doing here?" he shouted. "General White, we're here to help you," Bristol said. "This is no place for children," the general said. "Get to the village immediately." "You don't understand. We're Madam Weatherbury's students," she explained. "Who?" General asked. "Madam Weatherbury," Bristol said. "She's the woman who's been helping you fight the—" "I don't have time for this," General White shouted. "Go to the village before you get yourselves killed." Bristol didn't want to waste any more time either, and she needed much more than words to earn General White's trust. With a flick of Bristol's wand, all the soldiers' damaged armor was magically repaired, and their missing plates and pieces repaired. General White and his men couldn't believe their eyes as Bristol's magic filled in all the holes of their broken shields, popped the dents in their smashed helmets, and returned their lost gloves and footwear. "All right, you can stay," the general told her, "but don't say I didn't warn you." "Tell us how we can help you," Bristol said. What do you and your men need?" "We need a miracle," he said. Just then, one of the soldiers blew a horn, and the entire army turned toward the mountains. The classmates looked up as a menacing figure appeared in the closest mountain top. The figure wore a tall crown that was shaped like a giant snowflake and a bulky coat made from white fur, and she carried a long icicle scepter. Bristol borrowed a soldier's telescope and saw that the figure was a woman with glowing red eyes and black frostbitten skin. Her hands were so thin and bony they resembled tree branches. Without a doubt, the students and apprentices knew they were staring at the infamous Snow Queen. Their first glimpse at the most powerful witch in the world was a chilling sight, and they shivered from much more than cold air. "She's here," General White shouted. "Prepare for battle." As the soldiers hurried into position, the Snow Queen was joined on the mountaintop by 4 people wearing familiar black coats. The classmates gasped in horror when they recognized the cloaked woman standing at the Snow Queen's side. "That's Crowbeth, Nutalia, Squiddle, and Feliana," Skyline said. "It can't be," Tangerina said. "What are they doing with the Snow Queen?" Xanthus asked. "They're supposed to be helping Madame Weatherbeery." Bristol felt warmer as anger coursed through her body. There was only one reason to explain why the witches were standing at the Snow Queen's side. "They must have tricked Madame Weatherbeery," Bristol explained. "The witches are working for the Snow Queen." "Those gizzard suckers!" Lucy yelled. Now it made sense why the witches were so desperate for Madame Weatherbeery to return to the Northern Kingdom when she wasn't ready. The weaker the fairy was, the easier it would be for the Snow Queen to overpower her. There was no way of knowing how long the witches had been planning their betrayal, but Bristol had a feeling it was their plan from the very beginning. "Load the cannons!" General White ordered. "Sir, we have nothing to load them with," a soldier called to them. "We're out of ammunition." "I can help you with that," Emeralda said. She knelt on the ground and quickly started scooping the snow into large snowballs. Once they were the size of cannonballs, Emeralda transformed the snowballs into heavy emerald spheres and passed them to the soldiers. "Will these work?" she asked. It didn't take long for the men to understand what Emeralda was doing. The soldiers dropped to the ground and made more snowballs for Emeralda to transform, and then loaded the Emeralda spheres into their cannons. "Prepare to fire!" General White shouted. "On 3, 1, 2... Before they could fire their first round, the Snow Queen pointed the scepter at the army. A massive blizzard descended from the sky. There was so much snow, it was all the soldiers and classmates could see around them. The winds were so powerful that Bristol and her friends locked arms to keep from falling. "Fire!" General White ordered. "Sir, we can't see anything in the snow," a soldier called back. "I can fix that," Tangerina said. The apprentice closed her eyes and concentrated with all her might. Her bumblebees vacated her hair and flew directly into the storm. Her classmates didn't understand what she was doing, but soon they realized Tangerina's concentration stretched far beyond their expectations. Thousands and thousands of bumblebees flew into the blizzard from all over the Northern Kingdom. The swarm moved through the area like a giant buzzing net, and the insects caught the flakes of snow with their tiny legs. Soon the air was so clear the blizzard was nothing but gusts of empty wind. General White didn't take the clear conditions for granted. "Now," he ordered, "fire at will!" The soldiers lit their cannons and pelted the mountains with Emeralda's ammunition. Each emerald sphere got closer and closer to where the Snow Queen stood. The witch roared angrily and pointed her scepter at the clouds. She summoned a bolt of lightning out of the sky, and it struck the base of the mountain. Suddenly, the ground started to rumble under the army's feet. One by one, hundreds of terrifying snowmen grew out of the snowy ground and crept toward the soldiers like a legion of zombies. "Attack!" General White shouted. The army charged ahead and battled the Snow Queen's frosty warriors. The soldier courageously fought the snowmen, but they were greatly outnumbered. Bristol knew she and her classmates had to intervene before the soldiers were in trouble. "Emeralda, keep making those cannonballs. Tangerina, keep clearing the air with your bees. Lucy, Xanthus, and Skyline, follow me. We're going to help the soldiers fight the snowman," she said. "Let's cake some ice," Lucy cheered. The classmates ran across the base of the mountain and joined the men in combat. Bristol waved her wand and sent snowmen flying through the air in large bubbles, and used rainbows like colorful slingshots to fling them into the mountains. Lucy crushed the snowman with falling pianos, tubas, and harps, and she made deep sinkholes appear at their feet. Xanthus and Skylene put their magic together and melted the snowman with jets of boiling water. With the classmates' help, the Northern Kingdom's army tore through the snowman like they were made of paper. The Snow Queen was infuriated to see her adversaries succeeding and seized from the mountaintop. "This is perfect," Bristol said. "Really?" Lucy asked her. "Do you have other battles to compare it to?" "No, I mean this is the perfect distraction," Bristol said. "I'm going to sneak into Tinsel Palace and rescue Madame Weatherberry while the Snow Queen is occupied." "Bristol, no," Skylene objected. "We won't let you face the Snow Queen on your own," Xanthus said. "I don't plan to," she said. "If the Snow Queen heads back to the palace, then follow her and meet me there. But right now she's fixated on the Northern Kingdom's army. This might be the best opportunity we have to save Madame Weatherberry." Bristol's plan made her classmates nervous, but as they looked up at the Snow Queen's unwavering gaze on the General White and his men, they knew Bristol was right. "Be careful," Lucy said. I'm too young for you to die." I will, Bristol said. "I will," Bristol said. "Look out for each other while I'm gone." When she was certain the witches weren't looking, Bristol discreetly dashed into the mountains and climbed toward the towers of Tinsel Palace. Bristol kept a watchful eye on the Snow Queen as she went and carefully traveled around the witch without being noticed. Eventually, the soldiers and classmates gained the upper hand on the snowman. The Snow Queen decided it was time to send in reinforcements, and she nodded to the witches standing beside her. Crowbeth, Nutalia, Squidle, and Feliana descended down the mountain and entered the battle. Although they had always stood and walked like people, the witches threw off their cloaks and revealed bodies that were more animal than human. Instead of arms, Crowbeth had large feathery wings and legs like a hawk. Nutalia had a long, scaly torso that coiled like the body of a snake. Squidle had eight flexible limbs like tentacles like an octopus. Feliana's body was covered in fur, and instead of hands and feet, she had paws with razor-sharp claws. Each of the witches set their sights on a different classmate and preyed upon the children. Crowbeth spread her wings and swooped through the air, snatching Lucy off the ground like an eagle catching a squirrel. She raised the girl high into the sky and dangled her above the clouds. Lucy squirmed helplessly in the witch's clutches, and Crowbeth cackled as she struggled. "I hope you enjoy your fall as much as you've enjoyed our winter," Crowbeth screeched. Lucy closed her eyes and tried to summon a mighty force to save her. Just as Crowbeth was about to drop her, a flock of squawking geese appeared on the horizon and flew to Lucy's rescue. The geese attacked Crowbeth, using their beaks to pluck the witch's feathers and rip holes in her wings. Soon Crowbeth's wings were so damaged she couldn't keep herself in the air, and the witch plummeted into the mountains. The geese grasped Lucy with their beaks safely lowered her back to the earth. "Well, you're not the birds of prey I was picturing, but you're the best gaggle a girl could ask for," Lucy told the geese. On the ground below, Xanthus and Skylene went back as they were circled by Nutalia and Squidle. They tried to hit the witches with bursts of fire and water, but Nutalia and Squidle dodged their efforts with ease. In one slick, spinning motion, Squidle struck Xanthus's face with all 8 of her limbs. The boy fell to the ground, his eyes fluttered shut, and all the flames on his body disappeared. Squidle lurched toward the unconscious boy. She wrapped her limbs around him and started squeezing him to death. It's time to put your flames out forever, Squidle grumbled. However, Xanthus had other plans. When Squidle was least expecting it, Xanthus awoke from his pretend blackout and tightly fastened his muter metal around the witch's neck. Squidle frantically tried to pull the muter metal off, but the tentacles couldn't untie Xanthus's small knot. As her powers began to fade, Squidle collapsed and flopped on the ground like a fish out of water. The witch thrashed across the snow and accidentally rolled into one of Lucy's sinkholes and never resurfaced. Skylene, did you see that? Xanthus asked. I stopped my flames all by myself. I didn't even need the muter metal. Skylene? His friend didn't respond because she had her hands full. Skylene was pointing at Nutalia and blasting the witch with the most powerful geyser she could muster. Unfortunately, the water wasn't enough to stop Nutalia from creeping closer. The witch dived into Skylene's geyser and swam through it like it was a stream. Nutalia slithered close enough to grab a hold of Skylene, and the witch lifted the girl up by her collar. You stupid girl, Nutalia hissed. Did you actually think a little water would stop me? If I'm being honest, Skylene said, I wasn't trying to stop you. Nutalia had no clue what the girl was talking about, but suddenly the witch became very stiff. Her drenched body started to freeze in the cold wind, and soon Nutalia was as solid as a statue. Skylene pushed her over, and the witch hit the ground and shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. Skylene, that was brilliant, Xanthus said. How'd you know that was going to work? Magic is no excuse to ignore science, she said with a shrug. Across the way, Tangerina was still deep in concentration as she reduced the blizzard with her bumblebees. Feliana snuck up behind the apprentice and knocked her to the ground, leaving a bloody scratch across Tangerina's face. The girl tried to trap the witch with her honey, but Feliana jumped out of the way, avoiding each attempt. You and your friends will never win this fight, Feliana growled. I'm pretty sure we are winning, Tangerina said. My friends have already defeated yours. Feliana's green eyes glanced around the base of the mountain, and she roared angrily when she realized she and the Snow Queen were the only witches left. My sisters may be gone, but I still have 9 lives of my lives left, she growled. Feliana lunged toward Tangerina, but right as she was about to strike the girl again, she was interrupted by someone clearing their throat nearby. The witch looked over her shoulder and saw Emeralda standing right behind her. You may have 9 lives, but diamonds are forever, she said. Emeralda grabbed Feliana's paw and squeezed it as hard as she could. Inch by inch, the witch's body was slowly transformed into one large jewel. Feliana never growled, scratched, or jumped again. You're a real gem, Emeralda, Tangerina said. Thank you. As the students and apprentices defeated the witches, General White and his soldiers conquered the last batch of snowmen. Their successful defense infuriated the Snow Queen, and the witch screamed so loudly her voice echoed through the mountain. She doesn't look very happy, Tangerina said. What is she going to do next? Skylene asked. Whatever it is, it's not going to be pretty, Emeralda said. General White, Lucy called to him, the Snow Queen is about to show us the ace up her sleeve. Go to Appleton Village and evacuate while you can. You won't save your kingdom by sticking around here. Help your people safely cross the in-between and take them in the Southern Kingdom. We'll hold the Snow Queen off for her as long as we can. Thank you, General White said, and saluted the classmates. Godspeed, children. General White led his army toward the Appleton village, and the classmates stayed at the base of the mountain, waiting waiting with bated breath for the Snow Queen to make a move. An eerie smile appeared on the witch's frostbitten face as she plotted her next attack. The Snow Queen slammed her scepter into the mountaintop and caused a powerful earthquake to rattle throughout the mountain range. The snow slid off all the steep mountain slopes, and as soon as the avalanche of catastrophic proportions was hurtling toward the classmates, they didn't do something to stop it. If they didn't do something to stop it, and something quick, the classmates, the village, and the entire Northern Kingdom population would be decimated in a matter of minutes. "Xanthus, I think this one's on you, buddy," Lucy said. "What?" he asked in shock. "I can't stop an avalanche." "You're the only one with the right skill set," she said. "You've got to create a blast of heat that's powerful enough to vaporize that thing." I don't have that kind of power," Xanthus said. "Yes, you do," Lucy said. "You've got to believe in yourself, or the whole kingdom will be destroyed." The avalanche was growing, gaining speed as it raced down the mountain. It was so strong it snapped the trees in its path like twigs, and it knocked over boulders that had never been moved. The closer it got, the more frightened Xanthus was. Lucy's words of encouragement were helping him, so she tried a different approach. "Think about the night your father died," she said. Xanthus was very confused. "Why?" he asked. "Think about how your father beat you for playing with dolls," Lucy continued. "Think about the fire that killed him and burned down your house. Think about all the shame and guilt you've had to live with ever since. Think about how you wanted to drown yourself in the lake." The traumatic memories made Xanthus's flames rise on his head and shoulders. "I don't understand," he said. "What does anything have to do with—" "Think of all the time you spent hating yourself. Think of all the days you lived in fear of being discovered. Think of all the people who told you were wrong to be who you are. Think of how badly you wanted to change someone else. Change into someone else." Lucy was upsetting Xanthus, and his body was soon engulfed in flames. "Why are you bringing this up now?" he asked. "Because I know a part of you still hates yourself for being different. Part of you still lives in fear of the truth. Part of you still believes you don't deserve to exist. And part of you still believes you'll never be loved for who you are. I know how you feel, because we all feel that way." Fire started pouring out of Xanthus like lava flowing from a volcano. "Stop it, Lucy," he cried. "I don't want to do this." "And you don't have to anymore. None of us do. Stop carrying all that shame around. Stop wanting to change yourself. Stop worrying no one will love the real you. None of us have anything to be ashamed of. None of us has to change anything, and we'll always love and accept each other. So let go of the hate and fear that other people have instilled in you. Let it go so you never have to feel it again." The avalanche plowed into the base of the mountain, and the classmates were just seconds away from being pulverized. "Now's your chance, Xanthus," Lucy shouted. "Release all the pain and stop that avalanche from leaving the mountain." "No," Xanthus cried. "I can't do it." "Yes, you can," she yelled. "Let it out, Xanthus. Let it out." Ah! The boy fell to his knees, and a massive explosion erupted from inside him. As Xanthus's fiery blast collided with the avalanche, the entire mountain range was consumed in a blinding light. Emeralda pulled Lucy, Tangerina, and Skylene into a tight huddle, and then created an emerald igloo to shield them from the heat and the snow. By the time the light faded, not only had the avalanche been completely disappeared, but all the snow at the base of the mountain had melted away. The classmates peeked out from Emeralda's igloo and looked around in amazement. Xanthus couldn't believe what he had done either, and he stared at the land with wide, bewildered eyes. The boy turned to his friends with a bashful grin. "That felt really good," he whispered. "Boy, I am glad that worked," Lucy said. The Snow Queen was so enraged that the classmates had stopped the avalanche. Her frostbitten hands were shaking. The witch turned in a huff and headed back to Tinsel Palace. "Look, she's leaving," Skylene pointed out. "What's she doing?" Tangerina asked. She's retreating, Lucy said. Come on, we have to get to the palace before she finds Bristol. There's only a few more chapters left. Wow! Thank you so much for watching A Tale of Magic, Chapter 19. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, maybe, for the sake of the classmates staying alive. Help them win. And share to your friends for more awesome videos. Bye!